Genevieve Langlois, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the program. You are joining me from Toronto,
Yes.
which you're, I would say, still a bit of a recent transplant, right? You lived in Montreal for forever, for a long time,
Mm-hmm. I
and
have.
now you find yourself in Toronto. Um, so, for people who don't know you, you're an artist, you're an actress, you're a voiceover talent, you are a former clown, you do radio, you are a media personality. Like you do media and the arts. Is that a pretty fair way to describe you?
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Do a lot of different things. I did a lot of different things, like a lot of artists, I would say. Um, but yeah, God. I'm
That's a
thinking
long
back of my
resume.
career. That's pretty
let's uh,
fast.
let's let's talk a little bit about your career. First of all, where you were originally from?
I'm originally from Montreal.
Okay,
And yeah.
okay. And were you always an artist, or did you have a regular Joe job before you decided to go all in?
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate. My grandparents were, my grandfather was a radio announcer at Radio-Canada, and my uncle was in the band called Beau Dommage in Montreal. So I have a very artistic family. And my grandfather knew Janine Suto. To make a long story short, I started to get curious about theater when I was around 15. I did a show at my school, and I loved comedy. And I kind of found my voice through comedy. And so I started taking classes with Janine Suto, and she was, of course, well connected with all the, drama school. And I auditioned Saint-Hyacinthe. And did I audition for national school? No, I was 17. I knew that I didn't have a lot of chances to get into national school, but anyway, I got in. It was really fast. It was really easy. I knew what I wanted to do, right? So I was like, boom,
Yeah.
I got into drama school, and yeah, and then moved to Toronto after drama school. Again, circumstances where I was actually going out with one of the teacher. We were the generation that year. We all went out with teachers. It was so bad. And he had connections with Toronto, and then his career started to really take off. And bizarrely enough, somebody called from Toronto and said to me, "You speak really well English. Like, you should come and check out Toronto." And I thought, heh. So after drama school, I just basically went to Toronto, tried it, and I loved it. And I thought, I'm moving to Toronto. And that's
Which
how
is
it happened.
interesting because you went back to Montreal and now you're back in Toronto. So what is this pull between you and Montreal then?
You know what? I have so much issues with, I think, Montreal. I think there's a lot of stuff with my family. I think it was just a really cool way for me to be somewhere else when I was young. And I actually did really well here in Toronto. I had a really, really good career. Um, but there was always a pull to kind of go back to Montreal because I studied there. It's been pretty much my theme in my life of going back and forth and back and forth, kind of healing some stuff there, and then realize, okay, I know I want to go back to Toronto. It's still the place where I feel the most free, I think, in some ways. I don't know if that makes sense. I think it's because it's
Yeah.
not where I'm from, and because my family is so well established artistically. um, it was not easy for me in Montreal. It was not an easy place for me to blossom, for sure.
Makes
I
a lot of
blossomed.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear this a lot from like kids of famous actors or like kids of rock stars or like people who have a connection already, like you said, like families that are already established artistically. It's hard to create your own space. So it sounds to me like Toronto became that for you. Now, what I am curious about though is because Toronto is also more of a commercial center.
Hmm.
I don't know if you find that as well. That's what my experiences have been with Toronto. I wonder also, do you Are you attracted to the more experimental side of Montreal in the art scene, or are you really firmly now at this point in your life kind of like, okay, no, the commercial side is for me. I really like this Toronto big urban thing.
That's a really good question. Toronto's changed so much. When I was here in my 20s and 30s, it was just booming. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of theater, a lot of television series, and it was really happening, you know? So I worked a lot as an actor on stage and English, and it was just like pretty. I did some clown stuff. I started with Mump and Smooth, and it was really fantastic to be here. And there's, it's pretty much international. Toronto's more international in some sense than Montreal. Montreal has amazing theater, but and now that I'm back, in my 50s, my daughter going to school here, and wow, has it ever changed? Now it's not at all what, it's very much money, less culture stuff, less edgy. Most of the people that I really loved as artists are all gone, teaching or so. Yeah, I'm in a weird position right now. And with COVID, I mean, God, it's just made this city even more like. So yeah, I'm questioning myself a lot right now of where I want to go next. What I want to do. I don't think I'm
Yeah,
going to go
you
back to Montreal.
okay, that's interesting.
My daughter wants to go and study in Montreal. I don't know. It's like I want to move even further away.
Like
So
Vancouver or
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm looking out and going, where am I going? I don't know yet. I'm letting the space kind of open up and my curiosity to guide me right now, and trusting that my guidance, my inner guidance is going to bring me where I've always operated like that in my life. I always trusted my gut, when it was
Hmm.
time to move or not move or, not just, there's always been signs. I've always felt it. So
Did you always trust your gut? Because that's a
Mhm.
pretty, I wanna say, like, a ballsy thing to do, really. It is gutsy to just kinda go like, "Oh, I'm just gonna trust that it'll work out."
Yeah, it's been dangerous though. I don't recommend it. I mean, my ex-husband used to say, "Oh yeah, you're just going to wing it again. You're just going to, and I was like, "Yeah, I am." And most of the time I've succeeded in pretty much everything I wanted to do. But I must say since I started to be in my 50s, it has pushed me or confronted me to slow down, and it's good actually. It's good to slow down because it's like gives you time to integrate what you've done. Because you're a little bit like that too. Like I go 100 miles an hour at everything I do. There's
Yeah.
like no middle ground. Um, but I'm learning to slow down, and it's a very interesting thing for me right now. It's just it's a new Genevieve,
That's interesting. Is this because of, the pandemic? Because I'm hearing a lot of artists who are, like especially touring artists who can't tour right
hmm
now, who are like, "Oh, this has actually forced me to stop for a
Yeah,
change," which is
yeah,
new for a lot of artists.
yeah. It's like, well, first of all, situation for me is I have an 18-year-old beautiful young woman living with me full time in a not a very big space. We have a nice apartment, but it's not, um, and it's just I don't have any space for myself. I don't have an art space, where she'd go to school. I do painting and I do stuff. And now it's like she's there all the time. And I realized, wow, where is my space? How can I create? Lots of walk outside, all the stuff that artists do. You go to a cafe, you write, No, we can't go to cafes. You can't.
Yeah.
So it's made
And
it
and
very, yeah,
interacting and interacting with other artists.
yes, yes.
Weird.
Really weird, and not seeing galleries and not seeing, I mean, thank God there's TV and I've been reading a lot too, but have not been painting, right? And I've been drawing a lot, but it's been a time of just deep thinking really, I mean, I'm going to sound really somber, but definitely thinking about death and of how I want to die and the like going like, oh yeah, like I don't, if I have Alzheimer or if I have like, ALS or, um, man, I want to have the dignity to choose how I want to go. Right. I guess all those thinking,
Mm.
like, it's not just, oh, what will I do when I'm out of pandemic? It's like, well, okay, let's talk about, how I want to go if I'm going to go. I don't know. I became very,
Well, it makes
I'm
sense,
sharing
I
this with you, but
think.
I'm not sharing it with a lot of people because I know some people are like really like, oh, Genevieve, but I'm,
Well, now you just shared it with the world, but I'm just saying it's,
hey,
no, but it's important to share these things, right? Because this pandemic has, made us scared of other people. It's also, because of for health reasons, naturally, we're scared to catch this nasty virus. It's made us scared of them in a way, but it also has made us, I think, confront our own realities, our own physical being, our own future. So I can totally see why you would think of things like death. It makes sense. There's a connection there.
yeah, I've always, it's, I don't know, maybe because I'm 55 and I see, like I see my good years they're still there, but I mean, I've had those years of youth and incredible, like I've had success and I'm not I'm not yearning for that. I'm yearning for something else. And I so it's really interesting. It's a passage of like accepting that you're changing physically, like it's not about how you look, which is great, fantastic. Um, but yeah, it's a real transition for me right now. Like as much as and it's interesting how my daughter's 18 and she's moving into adulthood, and I'm moving into like being older, and um, my reflection on my life, my view on my life is totally different. So yeah, I'm obsessed with getting old. I love everything about it. I'm
I was
obsessed.
just about to say it's funny because if you follow Genevieve on, I think it's Instagram, where you tend to post pictures of white-haired ladies, and you have embraced your own beautiful long white hair, gray hair. There's silver in there. There's all sorts of shades of aging in there, which is
Hmm.
so beautiful.
Thank
And so
you.
I always appreciate the posts that you've been making, embracing that kind of the aging process.
Yeah, the aging process, I'm telling you, it's such a, I mean, I want to write about it. I'm not sure to what capacity. I would love to write a show about aging women,
Mm.
aging artists, aging women, period. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just actresses. And I said, no, fuck, everybody, all the women I know. How do you deal with aging? Some women do it with so much pizzazz and grace and funk, and some women are so scared of aging, and they get tight, and they do surgery, and there's nothing wrong also with surgery. If you want to do it for your face, that's your business, right? Just how people cope with it. And that gray hair has taught me so much the last 3 years, like cutting it and having all my friends kind of go, what have you done? What have you done? You're going to look so old. And I'm like, well, I am old, you know? It's like when people say, oh, you don't look your age. Well, yes, I do. I
I
am
think
my
there's
age.
I think there's a movement now, especially in the arts and especially among actors and actresses, is to actually embrace this kind of more natural look. And I'm curious to know, like, has your agency given you a hard time because of the color of your hair? Is that an issue still for actresses
Well,
today?
you know what? Very interestingly enough, when I did there's so many ways you can do that, but I did it like I grew the white part and then I chucked it. So I cut it really, really short, and I had long dark hair. And the woman of my agency, the owner, who's a friend of mine, was not very subtle, but basically looked at me and said, "What have you done? You were a beautiful woman, you know."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay, like I was like first strike where I was like, I'm gonna get that." And I said, "Well," I said, "I'm doing it because I'm fed up with coloring my hair." and I want something different, and it feels right to me. And then my other agent, who reps me for TV and all that, she's more my age, and she was cool, and she said, "I think it's great. I think you
Mhm.
look really fab with short hair." And I'm not kidding you. I think 2 weeks after that, I booked a television series because of my short gray hair. So just to say that, I didn't do it for work. I remember when I did that, I was like, I'm doing it for me
Yeah.
because it feels right. It feels cool, and I'm so I don't know. There's something deeper. I think you're right. There is a whole movement right now. I see a lot of women. I mean, with pandemic here in Toronto,
Mhm.
most women have like about 6 inch of white and color.
Yes.
It looks so weird. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
because we don't have access to, hairdressers
no,
and salons, so all
no.
these women are walking around with, like, no hair dye jobs, or they're experimenting with their own home
Yeah, and then
products,
you
and
see like
yeah.
red, like almost like the stain
Yes.
forehead. You just see the distress. I hope it doesn't show too much, but I did it at home.
Yeah, it's funny, there's, like, videos on TikTok and things like that where women are saying, "I'm never wearing jeans again," or, like, I'm never wearing heels again," because they've just spent almost a year and a half wearing comfortable clothes for a
Yeah.
change, you know?
Yeah, I know well, I've been you see, I'm obsessed with I don't let myself go. Like I know everybody say they gain weight. I don't. For me, that's one thing. I'm like, I'm not coming out of this pandemic like 30 pounds. So I eat well. I watch my weight. I'm a bit obsessed about it. My daughter is like, come on, mom, you're fine. So I have my quirks.
Right. Yeah, I put on a few pounds during the pandemic. I call it my COVID baby, and now the baby's coming out because we're seeing the end of this. It's like
Well,
it's
I
time to
see.
deliver.
Yeah, but you got a girlfriend who cooks you some
Yeah.
amazing
Oh
food from what I
God.
see.
Oh,
It would be
it's
hard.
it's uh yeah, it's very hard, and God bless her, but yeah, it's been interesting. I want to talk a little bit about your voiceover work because that's another thing that I think a lot of actors have turned to.
Mm,
Partially because of the pandemic and partially because of aging. Interestingly enough, I see a lot of, women actors who are going into voiceover work because, they can just be maybe more themselves. I don't know. Maybe there's more opportunities. There's a lot more multimedia products these days that need voices, professional voices, even podcasts. So how are you liking the voiceover work? Is that working out for you?
my God. I Oh yeah, I made so much money with it. I was so fortunate. I started very young. When I moved to Toronto, I did this demo. I was 22. Didn't even know about this business. And I just couldn't believe how much money you could make with voice. And it's not like I was older and wanting a second career thing. It just happened. And then I did a lot of TV as well, but I was also doing a lot of voice, and it's been amazing for me in my life. That's really where I made most of my money. Thank you God. Um, um, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to have to be careful saying that. But there is ageism. How do you say that in English? Ageism.
Ageism?
Yeah, with voice
Mhm.
as well, because you're the young thing, you're the cute thing, you're going to a studio, you're doing a TV show, and like clients are there, so there's a whole thing there that you have to look young and cute when you go to studio you know
Interesting.
so you're 55, you're 60, you have to still look funky because
Mhm.
you come in and they're clients and they don't want to see an old, not funky actress. That there's still that. I remember actresses say, well, yeah, you're going to look old with your gray hair. I was like, no, it's going to be funky. Like, I'm not going to play. But there's something there right now. And I see that now, like, I can read for stuff, but I get less jobs. I see that the 45, 55, the 45 is a real the bracket for voice right now. There's not that much of a big difference with my voice. But there's less work for women, even in voice, as you get older. It's really interesting.
Right.
Yeah, there's
I
still
almost
that.
I
Yeah.
I almost imagine that, there's that kind of like, I don't know, 55 to 65 bracket where, like, there's no work, and then you get a lot more work afterwards when you're older, and then you become like, like, the granny in a show or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, you get, like, the
Yeah.
bitchy ones and,
Yeah.
like I love those parts, by the way. I'm starting to get
Right.
those, and I'm like, because I can look very severe with my glasses, and I can look like, I know my look. I can look really, scary, kinda, judge or, and those great part because 'cause they're bitches.
Yeah.
They can be real bitch. Um and I'm really having fun doing that. And I like being old. I mean, I don't have a problem. There's an actress in England, I forgot her name, and she was saying she works a lot, like, and she was saying, I accept that I play old, you know? And
Mhm.
that for me was so brilliant. I was like, oh yeah, she's not trying to be the sexy, like Jane Fonda is fantastic, right? I
Oh,
love
yeah.
a lot of who she is, but all that surgery to a point where I have a difficulty with looking at her face now because it's so tight, and she'll always be a beautiful woman, but I don't identify with her as much since she's done so much work on her face, I don't
It's almost like,
identify.
it's almost like frozen in time, I find, with a lot of actors, and I get it. I mean, like you, I know people who have had this, certain surgeries done, and again, it was strictly for work. I think, some people do it, men and women. I've known men who have had scars removed, things like that. So, it's a thing. It's a choice that I think actors make for work. You know, for certain
Yeah,
people.
and I don't disagree with it. It's such a
Mhm.
personal, I think it's just when you look at someone's face and they lose that thing that they had that was so special, that made them human, that made them not perfect, right? That's what I love in a face. Or
Of
it's like,
course.
oh, look, the eye is a little crooked, and, like she's got little lines here. And um, that's why I find like British actresses look way more real in general than American
Right.
actresses.
Well, European in
You're,
general, I think,
yeah,
Europe. Okay, so let's talk about Europe for a second here. Have you done any work in Europe?
Europe. No, I would have loved to work in
No.
Europe. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I was
yeah.
curious because, I was wondering if the culture is very different there, the union is very different. I know that in France, you have to give the actors wine, apparently, the union in France. So it's a very kind of laid back, and very artistic atmosphere. So I was just curious to see if you had done any, I don't know, French films or German work or anything like
No,
that.
no, I would have
Okay.
loved that. Yeah, that's a regret of, I would have loved to work there, but who knows? I might end up in the other part of my life.
I was gonna say, you're not done yet, Genevieve.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, just, moving on a little bit here, about the voice work, I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you this question just because I interviewed a scientist recently, a young man in Jamaica who
Mm,
is, doing his PhD, and he desperately wants to do voice work.
mhm.
And so I was like, I'm gonna, when I have Genevieve on, I'm gonna ask her for a few tips just for, young people who want to get into this field. What would you recommend? What are some really good tips for people to improve on their own time?
Mm. Well, listen to I've made a couple demos for actors, and I've directed some sessions too with some actors or actresses. And I tell them to watch TV and listen to the voice that are hired right now, whether, because it's changing more and more, but, what a car voice sounds like right now. Like perfume for women, that motherly voice for, Tylenol for kids, or the different, to listen a lot what is actually happening right now on the voiceover world, because it's changing. Like there was a time where a lot of rasp voiceovers were really cool, like that kind of talk, that's talking like, and it's kind of monochord and that kind of, now Belle is the voice of Belle is Fiona Hyatt, who's with my agency, and she is superb. If you want to hear someone that has an amazing voice and does a great read, and she works a lot. Um, yeah, to listen to what's going on right now on the TV, so you hear why people are hiring those people. Also to practice what I, if you want to make a demo, that's when I started, I would take magazines and I would rip those scripts and I would go to a studio, they'd put this stupid music and I would make commercials. So I created 4 or 5 commercials that were not real commercials. And that's how I started. When you haven't,
Really?
yeah, when you haven't started, you just fake it, right? You just make a
Interesting.
couple. Yeah, so
Did they
people.
ask you? Did they actually, like, when you show them or when you give them your demo, do they ask you like, "Oh, was this a real commercial or did you make it up?" Like, do they know?
No, they just want to hear, you know,
Okay.
I've casted commercials and you I'm not, I mean, you listen to demos, right? That's what you do I'm just saying if you're not auditioning, let's say you're sending 8 or 9 demos. So you just listen a little bit and you just feel it right away. The first 2 or 3 takes, you have an idea of person's voice, person's abilities. But when they do an audition for a commercial, let's say I'm sending that to agency and I'm receiving the same commercial everybody auditioned. Like right away, you can hear someone's read. They just, they have range or
Interesting.
they do it the same way all the time, and it's amazing. Voice is very it doesn't lie, right? It's just like
Yeah.
you can't really. It's an instrument. So there's some people are great announcers, but they're not great actors. You put them in front of a microphone, they can announce anything, but if you ask them to have range and do some characters or just have some comedy skills, or it's just forget it. They don't have it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I see that a lot too sometimes with, actors who start podcasts. They're not very good interviewers. Sometimes I've seen that. I've tried listening to, like, because all the actors in Hollywood right now are doing podcasts, and I've tried
Yeah.
listening to a few of them, and I'm like, "Oh my god, these guys are terrible. They're not interviewers." You know?
Yeah, actors are not necessarily really good interviewers. You know, we're
Yeah.
fun and we're bubbly and but it takes someone that has a good listening and a direction, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
a it's
not
a
easy.
very interesting format. Of all the things that you've done, so we've talked a little bit here about voice, acting. You mentioned earlier you've done some clown work. You're a painter, a very prolific painter. Which of these specialties do you find fills your soul the most?
What a beautiful question. I'm actually thinking about that. The last month, I've been going what really fills my soul right now? Like I've done so many things, and I've enjoyed so many. It's such a tough question. I'm going to say, I mean, I love comedy. Like, I haven't done comedy in a while, and I wanted to write a series 15 years ago. I didn't do it. I did a demo of it. I didn't, that's one of the things that I feel like, oh, Jen, you wanted to do that, you didn't do it. So, comedy for sure. I mean, clown work was probably the highlight of being an actor. I just grew so much when I did clowning. I just kind of became like, I just realized that there was so much more to me and to the stuff that I wanted to do on stage. Right. I love theater. I mean, I thoroughly love theater, more than TV, more than film. Film is great, but it's theater is fantastic. You got people interacting with you, and it's in a moment. I love that. When you do TV, it's like when the production is ready, when everybody's, and then you have to be ready as an actor. So, and everybody's like, and then if you touch a crayon or something, then you have to put it back. You have to remember you touched it. It just drives me nuts. It's so precise. And where theater, you drop the pen. Well, you drop the pen, you pick it up, and the show continues. It's not like so. Yeah, I mean, theater, I miss painting, but I can't right now. It's almost like I don't have a studio to paint. So I've kind of put it thinking it will happen again, but I, I miss it a lot, but until I feel I'm going to have a space to really paint, I'm not going to dream about it in some ways. It's almost like in my second life. Once my
Mhm.
daughter's at university and everything's good, then I think I'll be able to fully give myself to it in a way that I want to do it, not like always rushing and painting and doing things halfway, which I've done a lot.
And it's interesting again because we're in living through a pandemic right now, which is, I mean, I find personally as somebody who likes doing visual arts as well, is that I can't
Yes.
create right now either because I crave like the company of people. I crave interactions. I crave and it's not I've we've been with ourselves for a year and a half. And it's hard because we I don't know about you, but it sounds like you've been doing as much reaching inside of you as I have, and I don't feel like putting that on paper or on canvas or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, after the pandemic is done, um, how do you think this is going to change things like theater? Do you think theater is gonna experience a huge boom?
Yeah. I think people, I sure hope we're not going to write about COVID. I'm not going to go see a show on COVID.
No, me either. Me either. Pandemic shows are done for a long time. Even
I think
zombie
so.
productions are done.
Um, it's a really good question. I was thinking about that too. I was going, what's going to be the next thing, right?
I think
Um,
comedy, like you said, I mean, you said that comedy is very special to you. I think it would be
yeah,
the epic time to do comedy. Right now is an epic time to do comedy because it's all I'm consuming right now. I'm watching all the comedy movies on Netflix that I can find just because it's like I don't wanna see anything serious right now. I
I
wanna just
know.
there's an expression in French, "Je veux me sentir comme légère." I wanna feel
Ouais,
light.
c'est ça, exactement. It's yeah, I want to do something about, like what I'm aging, and my
Mhm.
girlfriends were all in our 50s, and I want to do something stupid about our reality and being actresses that are not really working. What do they do when they're not working? And the quotidien of that. Skits about that, or monologues, or I want this to be funny, like the stuff that I see I can't do anymore, or I don't give a flying fuck anymore, which I used to. I'm single right now. I'm really enjoying being single. Like,
Yeah.
um uh, it's like all the women I look up to that are my mentors in some way. Who are they to me? And most of them are pretty cuckoo. They're fun. They're crazy. They outside the box. They're not like your typical. So it's like I need to see myself on stage. I want to see women that can talk about the stuff that people don't talk about. Like stuff that is uncomfortable or funny or not funny. Have
I
real
think that would be
discussion.
fantastic. That would be I would go see that show in a heartbeat just because I can, being a woman I'm 44 now, and so I'm experiencing a lot of the things that women go through, perimenopause and all these things, and, it's funny because I just learned recently I have the estrogen levels of a man,
Wow.
so it's like, you start to be like, "What is going on here?" I think you and I have talked about this all actually before, if I recall correctly, but, I think that would make for a fantastic show. You said
Yeah.
just right now, you said, women in their 50s going through their daily lives when they're not working. What is a day in the life of Genevieve right
Oh
now?
man, it's just so boring. I was like, sometimes I'm a maid, I'm a mom. I'm just I'm like, where's the artist? She's not there right now. So, I wake up, I do my meditation, which really helps me. I'm part of this wonderful group of women. We do gratitudes. That, I'm telling you, saves my soul. I do 5 gratitudes every day. We have this group and we read each other's gratitudes. It's fantastic. It's really saved my ass in so many ways. Every time I'm like irritated, or I'm like, come on, you got good things around you. And then I got my coffee, and then I go walk my dog. And then I basically, I mean, I read, or I lie on my bed. I watch TV. I did that a lot this year. Um, and then I make lunch for my daughter because she's at the end of her semester, and she works, and she's so stressed. And I promised her, I said, how can I help you? And she said, can you just make food, and just.
Mhm.
So it's so weird. Like, I'm so not like that in life, but I'm kind of the coach of my daughter till, you know, the end of school. So I don't have a very exciting life. I paint sometimes, I write, but it's almost like I'm waiting for her to finish the stress of school, and then I'll be able to figure out how I'm going to organize my day, because it's not normal what we're living right now, me and my daughter. I have a 850 square feet apartment. She's got her room, I got my room, and then we have the living room. And I give her the living room when she does her class because she's sick of being in her bedroom. So, it's not
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
it's
There's a lot of
yeah.
sacrifices being made, I mean, for a lot of parents right now. I think, the kids are having naturally being at the forefront because they're experiencing this weird, chaotic moment, and so are the parents individually. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting. I have seen some quite a few sketches go by though, so that's something that you've been doing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I work on paper 8 by 10, and that saves me because it's
mhm.
like a free expression of the moment. And I do a lot of women that dance. I'm telling you, or
I
women
so
that
I have 2 questions about your visual artwork.
yeah.
The women that dance, I get because, that was a prominent, theme for me as well in my 20s and 30s.
Was it?
The
Yeah.
horses, yeah, oh, totally, big time.
Oh, I didn't know
The
that.
horses I'm curious about. The so why don't you tell me about both? Why the horses? Why so many horses?
I
And
know.
also why so many women who dance?
It's funny because I don't do as many horses right now. I
Mhm.
believe it's the male energy in my life, the horse. And I was involved with a man for a long time, and it was a very difficult relationship. We split up, I don't know how many times. It was 9 years of my life. And I really think it was my way of, he was very male. He was very, because I don't paint very much horses right now. I paint mostly
Mhm.
just women. The other day I was
Right.
like, the horse is not coming back. I don't have the impulse of doing the horse. And I think it's because I'm finally just accepting that I just want to paint women, or I'll paint lots of trees right now. I love trees and flowers. And, but yeah, I think the horse was a lot of the male energy that I have as well in me, and the strength of the horse I love. There's something about, and it's very regal, and it's very um, brings a lot of I don't know. It's something very easy for me to do. Like, it just felt, and I know a lot of people paint a lot of horses, but for me, it was just more of a movement of the horse. It was much more of the black ink and the head, and I think, you know what? I know one time I was dating a guy, and he said to me, oh, I know why. This guy said to me, you're like this beautiful wounded horse, like you got like grace and all that, but I can see your head keeps, and I was like, oh, that's so right on, right?
Hmm.
And I think maybe by painting also the horse is like regaining that place of owning my strength. But right now, it really isn't. I'm in the feminine energy. I'm really kind of
Mm.
totally saying it's okay if I just want to paint women. Fuck it. That's what I want to do. Because, of course, I sold all my horses to men. Most of my paintings of horses, men would buy them. Men would not necessarily buy a painting of a woman. It's very interesting.
And go figure, I'm the one who bought the painting of the child right? I mean, it's kind of like a
Wow.
little girl in the so I bought one of Genevieve's paintings, and it to me, I see a child. I'm assuming that's what it is. It is
Yep.
a little girl, and so, of course, that's the one I was, really attracted to just because it made me feel whimsical. So, there you
That's
go.
what the painting is about. It's dreams. Just
Yes.
dream, you know,
Yep.
dream big. Dream, dream.
Did
Yeah.
you did you ever suffer from imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah. Especially in painting. Oh my God.
Mhm.
I haven't done any artistic school. And when I started painting, I still feel a lot of snobby. Oh, yeah. Have you done any, oh, you're a self taught painter. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
How did you get comfortable with the art of making art when you haven't been schooled? Did you just try different materials? Did you
Yeah.
just find stuff that worked? Did you read about stuff? Did you go on YouTube to learn how to varnish a painting? Like,
No,
how did you do
I
it?
did a bit. I took a couple class, but for me, being an actor, they tell you you're always like, saying someone's words. You're hired because the director liked you. There's always a third fucking party. And when I remember I started painting, I was like, nobody's going to tell me how to paint. Nobody's going to tell me you're supposed to do this. And of course, as I got better at it and I found techniques, but for me, when I paint, I'm free. I'm free to explore the way I want to explore. And that's the only place that if you see something I've done, there's nobody but me, my soul, and everything that I am in it. I think that's why I know, even when I was with this gallery here in Toronto, it was a very shishi gallery. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm not I felt kind of the syndrome de l'imposteur, thinking, but he said, you're really good, or I like what you do. And I guess I started to go like, I like what I do. And if I can continue that, then I'm on a good road here. But for sure, I don't fit at all in the art world of the typical what I see going to art school and then getting grants and then going to galleries so I know I don't have the typical path, and I'm okay with it now. It's almost like once my daughter moves to university and I have time for me and a space for me, I think it'll be really interesting to see what I'm going to do in painting, because I've had time to reflect, and I'm somewhere else too right now. So I have some ideas
Mhm.
about where I want to go with my paintings. Definitely less figurative, more movement, less figurative. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very, very
Images of
interesting.
bodies moving, like women, always women. I love women. But not as figurative, more about movement and moods, and
Do
flowers. I
you
love flowers.
ever Did you ever feel the pressure though with your paintings to kind of be like, "Oh, what if I could make a living?" just selling paintings, like, "Oh, maybe I should, do that. Maybe I should make paintings that sell." Do you ever have those kinds of internal pressures?
Yeah, I did. It was terrible. Terrible. I hated it. I hate it. I still do. People will say, "Well, can you make me a deal?" And uh, I find that part the most difficult. Um, I'm in a program right now. I'm doing this program, a money program for artists. So, and it's really good for me because it made me aware of how I have a hard time asking money for a piece of art, for instance, or even in my acting career. Sometimes I'm like, negotiating something. I'm like, no, I want this, about our worth, self-worth, right?
Mhm.
Something about, so I think I'm dreaming that my paintings will sell organically, like I don't want to push. I post some stuff on my thing on Facebook. I used to push a lot more. I don't think that's the way I want to go this time. I want to feel like I have a lot of people follow my work. It's great. I think I'm going to do an expo once COVID. But I want to do it from a different place, not pushing as much, and it has to be love for me. When I start getting business, or like I have to sell this, I have to sell, then I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the whole thing. So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of artists. There's just a lot of people, who are in business, whether they're an artist or not, who are kind of rejecting this new kind of way of marketing online. And I have, I actually, counsel people, like, small business owners and stuff in marketing, and a lot of the time, I'm telling them, "Do what feels right, man," because even myself, I'm not using social media as much as I used to, or I'm using just one channel instead of trying to market my work to, like, a million different channels. I find, one of the things I really wanna explore, and I don't know if you've ever looked into this, is the New York model, which is that in New York, there apparently, and now I haven't looked into it, recently, but there's no bylaw. So you can go to a certain location, set up a stand, and sell your work. Now they have no sell zones,
hmm,
okay, but you don't have to go get a permit to sell your artwork on the streets in New York. There's like this kind of openness to being an artist. You can just set up a stand and sell your work. I
wow.
find that very interesting, and I my gut tells me that's going to be a model that people are going to go back to because it's
Mm,
it's too saturated online. That's my gut feeling.
I think you're
What do
right.
you?
I think you're right. Yeah, I
I
really
mean, in
like what.
Canada,
Yeah,
sorry, I just wanna clarify though, in Canada, there are bylaws against that stuff. So I'm curious to see where artists are gonna go after this, reopens, if they're gonna try to push for, "Hey, we wanna sell our work in the streets now," you know?
yeah. I think it's great. I did this art thing here in Toronto, the Toronto art fair thing. Uh, it was a lot of work, but and I was with the gallery then, and they said, "Oh no, don't do that because it's not good for your name. It's not good for your reputation." If you And I was like, "No, I want to meet people. I want to see real people, real people who want to buy art, right?" So it was great. It's a lot of work though. It's crazy,
Mhm.
but I like that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I think you're right. It's changed. It's gonna change. That's why I'm really even like posting art on Facebook or on Instagram, or it doesn't feel the same for me anymore.
Mhm.
It's like I
Yeah.
want people to see it. I want to and I want contact with people too. We've been so. I still have also an idea of doing this graphic novel, which I'm like, I've been in my head for like years of all my dessin story, my story, woman's story, and I'm just still not quite. I know a lot of good writers, so I'm thinking, do I want to do this with a good writer, a female writer, or ugh, I'm still kind of I'm vague about it. I think I'm just procrastinating.
Well, it's funny because this reminds me a little bit of my interview with our mutual friend Nathalie Claude, who
Yeah,
is also a woman with a million ideas, right? I mean, she's
yeah.
got always got so many ideas, and so I'm curious, with how you work, how do you decide which idea to run with?
Mm, gut, my gut.
Again, okay.
Always, yeah. It's like I call them the whispers, right? Ever since Steven Spielberg was talked about that in an interview, and it's like that's so brilliant. Like he was saying, it's not the loud voice that brings it's those little whispers, and I really dig that because it's what's my next project, right? Like sometimes I'm gonna obsess about something, and like I'm obsessing about my next project is being old, and I'm reading everything about getting old, about women and their getting older, and like artists, women artists that are in 80s that are I'm obsessed with. So it's like I can't do theater right now. I really want to do theater, so I'm really frustrated. Like that's the um but yeah, it's how I think it's what really interests me in the moment, like what really
Okay.
is authentic to me in my life too, because it's coming from me. It's not just an idea, an intellectual idea I read in a book and I go, oh, that would be a good idea to do. It's like, um, yeah, I'm obsessed with growing old and seeing my body changing and going, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I want someone to tell me what's supposed to happen next, right? I want to hear about women to tell me like, it's okay, Genevieve, don't worry, that's part of it, you know. And it's
Totally.
yeah, like it's
Are you able to have those kinds of conversations with, the women in your life who are older than you? Like,
yeah,
you know, moms, aunts, whatever. Is that something
yeah,
you can do?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and my mom and another group of women I talk with, I really love. And there's a couple actresses here that we're meeting now every week, and we are looking for reading some plays and all that. And we want to do something together about finding some stuff that we could do, the three of us. Um, because women in their 50s and 60s, you don't see them as much on stage, and you don't see them as much on screen. Um, and you're right. After that, the grandmas, and but there's not that much out there, for us,
It's
uh,
true.
and written for us too. Like not so, but everything interests me, and I'm also really good with not having a project. I'm more and more good with those periods of not nothing, the beige period where it's like, okay, I'm just resting. I've done a lot and I don't have any ideas, and it's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
also part of, like this, I don't know if it's been for you, but for me, this pandemic has not been like, oh yeah, I'm going to have time to write my project. And I was like, nope.
Yeah, yeah. Well, curiously enough, this pandemic actually made me discover the microscopic world.
It's,
So it took me into a completely different direction.
I
Completely. My
know.
entire network is all scientists now. It's crazy.
Well,
I've never seen anything like it.
yeah, but you're like, I can see, like, you're super, super, super intelligent, and like everything interests you. And then I think that when you find something that you love, you just go for it 100%. And,
But
I'm
I
not,
think you brought up a good point though, which is that the creative instinct isn't there. At least not for me. Like the this desire to like do something visceral and artistic. I'm like, ugh, I'm just gonna look at this under the microscope instead. It's you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
weird. It's weird.
No, I think it's yeah, like even more to cook for my daughter and to be so ménagère, which I don't identify at all like that. But I was like, it's okay, I can do it until, and
Mhm.
then I'll get back on my feet and create again. But it doesn't define me completely as, as a person anymore. It's not like I'm just that. We're so many things, you know.
Right.
We're so many.
We have a few minutes left, Genevieve, so
Yes,
I wanna ask you some just quick, very kind of, quick questions out of curiosity. If
go.
you could go anywhere in the world right now to explore a new city, which city would it be?
Well, it's terrible, but I would go to India. I
Mm.
want to go to
Okay,
India.
pretend it's not COVID.
Yeah.
Let's see. India, interesting. What
Yeah.
about, what's a good book that you've read lately?
This book about aging again.
Okay, what's it called?
It's called Who Am I Now That I'm Not Who I Was? And this woman interviewed tons of women in their 60s, 70s, and it's really great. Gave me a lot of info, the choices they made, how they, you know, yeah.
Who's the author?
Connie Goldman.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah.
And when you are working, when you're painting especially, are you listening to music? And if so, what kind of music?
Mm. Erica Badu, Erica Badu, Erica Badu. I
Okay.
love Erica Badu. A lot of R&B, actually. I'm a big R&B great groove to paint. It's I have um, rediscovered who was it that I was mentioning? Stevie Wonder. You know,
Oh, of
I like old
course,
Stevie, and
yeah.
then the old Bee Gees, and I was just like, oh man, that's so good. I used to listen to that when I was young.
Exactly. Okay, last question, which it's funny because it just actually escaped my mind. When you're paying attention to somebody and you're like, "Okay, I think I'm gonna ask them this question next," and then you're paying attention to somebody
And then
because
you lose
that's
your question.
what's called listening. Yes. Um I can't even recall it. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yes. Okay. Actually, I do recall it. You mentioned way at the beginning of this interview that you're thinking of leaving perhaps Toronto at some point.
Hmm.
The real question here now is, are you going to go to another city or are you going to go to the country?
Mm. I'm not gonna go to another city for sure. I would love to live like somewhere warm. I don't really like winter that much. I've always dreamed to live in San Diego, San Francisco, you know, California. But as you know, there's a lot of fires. There's a lot of
Yeah, I was going to
problems.
say there's a water problem there.
There's a lot of problems.
Yes.
In the States, I mean, they're not,
Yeah.
they scare me a little bit. I love Mexico too, Mexico City, which is a very busy city, but
Mhm.
I've had dreams of having a studio there. So I don't know. I know that I'm not going to end up here. I know that. If I move back, I might move back near my mom, who's moved to near Mont Tremblant,
Okay.
but I will not move to Montreal, to a city. It's very noisy. I don't know if you're like that. Mais moi, I'm starting to
Hmm.
really enjoy not hearing stuff all the time moving around, and the
Yeah, we're
bus.
we're moving to PEI. So, yeah. Yeah, we're getting out of here as soon as she can get a transfer for work. So, yeah, this is, I
Oh, I didn't know
know.
that. Oh, that's so
Yeah, so that's
wonderful.
I know, you'll have to come and visit.
Oh, that fits so well with who you are, and like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that's a big
Ocean
decision.
life. Ocean life, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so that's why I had to ask.
but okay, you have to let me know. That's big news.
Yeah,
That is big.
definitely.
Okay.
Listen, I have to wrap this up.
Okay.
Um, thank you. Merci d'être venu. Guys, go check out Genevieve Langlois' work. Genevieve, you have a website address. You want to give it to us, please?
Oh my God,
I think it's your name.
GenevieveLanglois.com. Yeah, www.genevievelanglois.com. And then,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
put it at the we'll put a link at the bottom of the show notes. But thanks again for coming on the show. I really
Thanks,
appreciate it. I love the
Genevieve. That was
discussion we had.
so much fun. Loved it.